Hi everyone and welcome to another channeled messages reading brought to you by 1millionnights.com. These messages are based on synchronicity, so if you have been asking for any kind of divine guidance in the very recent past, there is a very small chance for you to find your answers in this reading. All you have to do is listen through. You don't have to choose any specific card, just take in what resonates and discard the rest. Now, before I get into the readings, I just like to say that these messages are not very optimistic, but this can be the influence of the sun standing across the sky from Neptune, a very powerful energy of disillusioning, and at the same time the sun holds a trine with Saturn speaking from its home sign of Capricorn, so it is extremely powerful there. And Saturn is exactly the planet which requires us to be perfectly aligned with physical reality, with down-to-earth matters. And even though this is a trine, so it is a blessing, it is a celestial support, it is almost like a divine intervention. Well, Virgo, where the sun is a very practical, rational, down-to-earth sign. So this blessing can be a reality check where the universe just dishes out the truth in a very palpable, practical manner, where it kind of ignores the hope, the optimism, our personal illusions that have to basically spice up every situation. So even though this can be a little bit painful, it is still the energy of the truth, and the truth is always a blessing because it basically guides our minds to find other, more practical, more down-to-earth solutions and simply aligned optimism with realism so that we don't just delude ourselves. I just had to say all of this because for those of you who are rather sensitive to not so pleasant or not so easy and straightforward energies, well, listening to this reading might not be the best idea. But of course, it's not really doom and gloom. There is advice, guidance, and a spark of hope and inspiration in all of this reading, so it's not negative or toxic in that sense. So let's get on to the first message, where we have the Eight of Swords reversed, clarified by the Page of Coins reversed. Now this depicts a very delicate situation, if we can call it like that, because the Eight of Swords reversed is a very powerful card which represents that we possess the ability to see the truth, to see behind all illusions, all deception, all manipulation, and at the same time our minds, our mental spheres, our way of thinking, our logic is not really flawed, it is not limited, it is actually freer than ever before. But it is exactly this freedom, this hyperactivity of your mind that may cause your material situation to be stagnant, or simply it sends you into a state of procrastination, in a state of lethargy. Because pursuing certain projects and immersing yourself into many lucrative or creative goals at this moment seems very self-defeating to your mind, to your mental sphere, to your logic. Because on one hand that the world is kind of in such a very confused state, if we can call it like that, where everyone's trying to figure out what's going on, and at the same time everyone's trying to figure out what to do next, or for some people exactly what not to do next. So basically this can represent that society, the world in general, your industry, people are not really ready to embrace your creativity, to embrace your energy, to support you, or to take everything that you can offer in a very positive and uplifting manner as it is designed, as it is intended, of course. So this basically leads you into existing in a kind of paradox where mentally you're freer than ever before, and everything, at least for you personally, makes perfect sense. You can see the correlations, you can put very easily the big puzzle together. You're in a state of mental clarity, so your logic, your mind, your way of thinking, the way you perceive stuff is really, really accurate. It is really precise. But it is exactly that precision and not being ignorant that causes this inner contradiction. Because on one hand, if you know exactly that no matter what you would do, it is not gonna, at least emotionally speaking, lead to a harmonious completion where it can advantage as many people or that area of your life or society, community, whatever, as much as you would like it to, well then there is no real point into investing that much work, that much passion, that much effort into it. So in a totally different kind of expression, it means that because of your clarity, because of your mental openness, your awareness, your precise and very meticulous perceptions, you are unable to truly live and enjoy the present because it is simply too, I don't even know how to express this, maybe unstable, but in a sense that there would be absolutely no point into investing any effort into it, because in the present, and this is exactly the problem, the present moment, not the past, not the future, but right here and right now, doing any specific activity or taking a very strong effort requiring action would lead to absolutely nowhere. So the most logical thing to do is simply wait. Be patient, wait, put all your ingenious ideas, because you have a lot of those, all your project ideas, all your big plans on hold, and wait for an opportune moment when, taking action would not be self-defeating in a strict emotional sense, and in the sense that it would simply go against your principles. Doing something right now would be absolutely useless morally, because it would not be anything that would lead you to happiness, fulfillment, completion. So basically, other than to be patient, stay aware, stay open-minded, and try to identify opportunities when they arise in the not so distant future, of course, because this won't last forever. That is the most appropriate, wisest, and diligent thing to do. Because if you try to force things, it will just lead you to burnout, it will just leave a bitter taste in your mouth. Because regardless of how powerful your mind and intellect is, well, without that touch of emotion, and without the receptivity, the need for what you have to offer being existent in the world right now, there's nothing really that you can do. But at the same time, this is also a massive karmic lesson for you, because be careful what you wish for. You wished for freedom, you wished for the truth, as in for you to be able to comprehend and see and understand the greater truth, and you exactly got what you wanted, what you asked for, but no one said that is going to lead to happiness, that is going to lead to anywhere positive in a very human and down-to-earth sense. So, when you are going to wish for something so intense and extreme in the future, be careful not to want something absolute or near perfection, because that is exactly where an unwise or untempered, unbalanced desire leads to, an absolute expression. And we live in a very imperfect world, so everything in it has to be imperfect by divine design. So when we try to align ourselves to the absolute, to almost idealism, perfect idealism, well, regardless of what we do, that always defeats us, because, the very structure of physical reality doesn't allow absolute perfection, idealism, utopia to exist here, because it would just defeat free will and ultimately evolution. Now the next message is the Six of Wands reversed, clarified by the Knight of Wands reversed. Now this can speak to two specific situations, but they are very similar to one another. I do sense that the predominant energy of this message is that in the past, the rather recent past, the past 6 months of your life, someone might have awoken some very strong feelings of desire and passion inside of you. Now this can represent a romantic situation where you met someone really special and you developed feelings for that person, and ever since that moment you really started dreaming, you started making plans, scenarios. You felt that this connection is fated, so basically you gave everything in order to achieve completion, so to speak. And that completion, well, it can mean a relationship, it can mean to convince that person to be with you, or to give this relationship at least a chance. But for other people, it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. It can be someone or something that evoke a very strong passion for something, but the completion of that passion depends on either other people, or it depends on people being receptive to what you express. So, this can be perfectly very valid in a work kind of situation, a project, in a business, in a partnership, because you might need to attract a very specific, well-determined archetype, a professional who can help you or collaborate with you. But the overall energy, which I sense, is actually romantic in nature. So if your situation is not really romantic, just adapt to what I'm about to say to fit your, let's say, lucrative or project or any kind of expression of how this passion manifests in your life. So basically the problem here is that the Six of Wands is reversed, so you didn't really achieve victory even though you tried everything in your power. And that Knight of Wands is also reversed, so it represents that you haven't really advanced that much, despite your efforts, despite your tactics, and despite expressing your desire and how passionate you are about the situation or the person or anything. And this is where the universe advises you that it is exactly your passion that kind of put you in a standstill situation, because you might have overdone it. I think you might have fallen so very in love or started dreaming so very intensely about this relationship, or however this plays out in your situation, that you might have unwillingly and unknowingly a little bit intimidated that person, but of course in a very positive sense, because you expressed everything that you are, you showed who you are, what your dreams are, what your desires are, how you function, and how much love you have in your heart. And that person is not really a very passionate person, so this energy of yours might have been a little bit too much for them, so they might have taken a step back, because they might have felt that even if you match, even if they can envisage a partnership or relationship with you, your level of passion or the levels that you operate on, may it be professionally or in any other sense, are a little bit too high. So they might not have the self-confidence to actually follow up on your lead, on your invitation, on your messages, on whatever you expressed. And this is a really funny situation, because you're not that very direct, straightforward, fiery, extremely passionate person yourself. You're very balanced, you're very supportive of others, you're very, very open-minded and always consider the will of others first. But this is where I think it just ignited you. I think you were just on fire and you didn't see yourself from the outside objectively, so you didn't really know that you kind of overdid it, that you kind of exceeded the measure. And that is exactly why that Knight of Wands is reversed, it is on hold, it is not progressing, because you need to tune down your passion, your ambitions, and of course the very fiery, loving, caring way that you express yourself. Because if you are in a committed relationship, well, this is always positive, this is always how things should be. But when you're not in a relationship yet, when there is no commitment, when there isn't that, energy of intimacy where both of you accept each other's most intimate feelings, thoughts, etc., well, this can be a little bit too much for other people. So that's why the best idea is to start viewing yourself from the outside if possible, and know how to manage your passions. So don't be too quick, don't be too bold, don't be too, for example, generous, because that can come through as an energy of intimidation, where that person might feel, well, oh my god, they can never return your favor, they can never return your generosity, they are not as, how should I say, caring, nurturing, positive as you are, so they might be feeling a little bit in inferiority compared to you. But of course, this doesn't mean anything. The Six of Wands, even in reverse position, is still a good sign. It just means that victory isn't there yet. Triumph is not achieved and completed yet. But it doesn't mean that the game is over. So try to readapt a little bit and be patient, because whoever this person or situation is, they're still interested. They just need more time, and they need a bit of coolness. They need a little bit of rationality in all this picture, because that will help them understand that you're not always this intense, that you're actually quite like them, quite similar to them. This is just, it is what it is. This is how the human heart works. Now the next message, we have the Nine of Coins reversed, clarified by the Seven of Coins. Now this isn't a very beautiful situation, because the Nine of Coins reversed represents that you're really dissatisfied with your professional life, with your career, or simply what you do for a living. It can also represent a higher vocation, where you have very strong, profound studies, diplomas, degrees. Or it can also mean an industry where you are very, very experienced and you kind of know the profession inside out. But the Nine of Coins reversed represents that despite your great knowledge, despite your skills, despite of how very passionate, talented and willing you are to basically do this type of work, to dedicate your time, and time means a little bit of, or actually a lot of your life, to doing this, the results aren't really what they should be. And this isn't just the present, this is basically from start until this present moment. But of course, why this situation is like this and has been like this isn't really an enigma, isn't really a mystery. You kind of know what you're doing, ironically right, and because you're doing everything right, well, that is the main cause for the lack of progress, lack of recognition, the notoriety, the favorable material situation, the opportunities in your life to be a very relevant figure. For some people actually academically, so to be a very relevant research figure in your industry, for example, while for other people, simply said, to be a very renowned, respected and sought after professional in that industry. Well, none of this is actually how it should be. Because you are not someone who makes compromises very easily. You're not someone who drops the standard. You're not someone who abandons the principles, the guiding ethics, morals, know-how, traditions, for example, of that industry, of whatever you're doing. And because of this, you never went with the flow, because you kind of knew that the flow is actually a massive downgrade. So for the love of your profession, for the love of normality, for the love of standards, and basically respecting all those people, your predecessors, the ancestors even, who sacrificed their lives to make this industry, profession, whatever it is, to make it what it is today, well, that sacrifice cannot be simply mocked by dropping standards and, going with the modern flow. So why you're in this situation, why, you're not happy with how things in your life, professionally, career-wise, is not really a mystery, or if it once was, you solved it very quickly. But the true problem is, why isn't your fate, your karma, the universe, society, anyone offering you some kind of help or assistance or whatever can change the situation around? Because there might have been several occasions in your life when you said enough is enough. You just can't simply complete your life mission, so to speak, if you are in an impossible situation. Because on one hand, you cannot change what you're doing, because as I said earlier, that would be a mockery to the whole industry and the history of the industry. But at the same time, if you go against the flow, well then, there's no way you can actually succeed in the proportions that you need in your life. So many times giving up or surrendering or stopping or changing directions might have been a very inspired idea, but always it was your fate or your karma or the universe or something that intervened and stopped you, convinced you to keep on going, or you received some kind of synchronicity and your hopes just sparked up from there. But even the divine guidance, even the synchronicities, or whatever happened was basically a dead end. It didn't lead you, it led you basically to accomplish a lot of personal achievements, as in just, regarding the relationship you have with your soul, you have with yourself, your own standards, your own dreams, your own desires. Like, just let me give you an example. Maybe you were someone who dreamt of being an author, of having a book, and you read the book and you published it, and, there it is on the shelf. For you personally, that is a big achievement because you accomplished one of your dreams, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's successful or it means anything in a greater expression. Or another example, you always wanted to be in a leadership position and you accomplished it, but it didn't really do that much, as in satisfaction-wise, etc. But this is where the universe has a very powerful message for you, that on one hand, yes, your perception and perspective is very precise and accurate because you are living in a very limited, in a very impossible situation where this is the maximum that you can achieve under the circumstances that I spoke about earlier. But at the same time, you do not know how the world itself is going to change in the not so distant future. Because on one hand, this massive global pivotal moment, so to speak, the crisis, the turnaround of the whole situation, the shaking up of the whole structure and order of society, well, on one hand, it did strike down your industry, and it is all those professionals or other people in that industry, or those who are representatives of the flow and main currents of this industry where it's going to in the future. Well, it is exactly those people or those organizations or whatever that are suffering defeat in the present moment. So, for example, their business numbers or whatever, they're going massively down. And this means that their downfall is exactly the opportunity that you need for you and other people like you, because you're not alone. There are other people exactly like you who preserve the sanctity of the customs, of the traditions, standards, morals, principles. So it is exactly your archetype that is going to be rising in the next 7 months, where it is your industry, your profession, etc., that is going to go through a massive revolution, a massive readaptation, an upgrade, so to speak. So basically, it's not over until the corpulent lady sings. And that is exactly why the universe stopped you so very many times from surrendering or stopping or choosing a different path for yourself, because it knew that this moment was coming. You couldn't have known. So all it asks of you is to give all of this, all of your story, everything that you have done, all your work, all your invested time, effort, sacrifices, another chance, at least for the upcoming 7 months, because things can change dramatically. And as I said, this doesn't really depend on you, so it's not something you have to do. It is basically the industry that is gonna be revolutionized, and that might be your green light, your ticket to live the kind of professional life you deserve, you worked for, and you always dreamed of. Now for the next message we have the 7 of Wands clarified by the 6 of Cups reversed. Now the 7 of Wands in this case is not a very positive card, because it represents that you're holding your ground. You're defending your normality. You're defending your life, the structure of your life. You're defending your own being, your psyche, your life, everything, that you need to have in your existence in balance, so to speak, in order to exist like a human being here on earth. And it's not the case that you cannot do it. It is not the case that you're not up for it, but more like you're getting extremely tired. It is like even your physical energy is being drained out of your body, and you're left in a very aggravated state of fatigue, where even your emotional power is just fading away. Your motivations are by now something really, really forced, as in you really, really don't feel it, but in order to function, you almost have to force this upon yourself. So your life is getting harder and harder and harder with each passing second. And it is only now when you're really starting to get a little bit worried, because, when your batteries are totally discharged, when they truly die, you're really, really afraid of falling. And that is gonna be a fall like your psyche crumbling and collapsing in on itself. And this is almost normal, because, you work so very hard to keep everything in balance, to make sure that you are functioning. And at the same time, usually when the 7 of Wands appears, that means that it's not just your life who you are trying to hold together and make things function, but also maybe another person. It can be your partner, family, a very, very close friend who matters to you very much. Or it can be your work, your professional life, where you work with people, so naturally that adds a lot of hardship onto this. But This is where you kind of really need some help right now, because when there is no pleasure, no happiness, no ease in your life, because I think the keyword here is ease. Ease and also a little bit of comfort and maybe physical comfort. Because if you would have all these in your life right now, well, the Seven of Wands wouldn't really be the Seven of Wands anymore, because it wouldn't really feel like such a massive struggle, and it wouldn't really consume your energy, your power, your mental strength, your emotional strength, your passions the way it does right now. But this is where the universe advises you to look back in your past, because this is almost like a recurring cycle, a recurring energy in your life. Whenever you close a cycle, you usually end up being very, very stressed out, tired, burned out. You always kind of get to a situation, especially a psychological situation, where you are just one step away from collapsing in on yourself. But just as the past cycles repeated, and they usually led to a really positive, a really joyful, really easy new beginning just before the fall or the psychological collapse happens. So it's always played out like just before the point of no return, something happened in your life unexpectedly that offered you a ticket, a way out, and usually that way out led to a life of pleasure, and that is very important because that is how you regenerate. That is how you recharge your batteries. So naturally you kind of already know deep inside you that this is exactly the way it's gonna play out even now. And the more tense, the more stressed, the more tired you feel, that means that you're that much closer to the solution, which is naturally a fated event, because this is how the karmic cycles play out in your life. And of course, this doesn't mean that you have any kind of negative, bad karma. It just means that when you get to the end of the cycle, you are so very, very tired because you're a very hard-working person in every sense of the world, not just, professionally, materially, but also spiritually, psychologically, karmically. When you promise something, well, you actually complete it as close to perfection as you possibly can, and that means that you will always consume much more power, much more inner fire, so to speak, than any other person. So the universe is telling you to hold out just a little bit longer, just be a tiny bit more patient if you can, because you already know, mentally even, emotionally, that this is how your life always plays out, and it's not gonna be any different right now. Just that the solution hasn't entered into your awareness yet, but karmically it's already there and it's already being prepared. So don't really be afraid, don't worry, don't allow your fears to get to you, because you are gonna be pulled out of this intense state of fatigue, if we can call it like that. Now in the next position we have the Eight of Coins reversed and the Sun card. Now this is a very simple and straightforward message to someone out there who has asked the universe very recently the question, why doesn't anything work in their lives as they plan it? Why doesn't anything meet their expectations? Why don't things come together as they should at least once? Now this doesn't mean that everything you do is a failure, not at all. It just means that nothing really meets your exact calculations, nothing really matches your exact expectations. And the thing is, you're not someone who has very high and wild expectations, but quite the contrary. You're someone very, very knowledgeable. you're someone very balanced, very rational, and you know always to, project expectations which are more than realistic. Because before you expect something, you do some research, you do some soul searching if whatever you are planning to do is right for you, matches who you are. You also might research documentation, other people's stories, how they did it, how they accomplished it. So basically, you're exactly the kind of person who is doing everything right. So you might not know why the sudden chaos, why the rearrangements, why the complications, why the inconveniences. And I think, with the 8 of coins reversed, maybe why certain people can simply not be trusted. And the answer of the universe is something you might not really expect. Well, it's telling you, well, it is trying very, very hard and has been trying for some time to open your eyes, to open your awareness that you might be wasting your life a little bit. You want to do so very many things. You have so many goals, you have so many dreams, you have so many projects. But all of them, how should I even express myself not to cause confusion? They're so very earthly, they're so very aligned to certain purposes, to the big picture. In other words, you might be someone who is taking life way too seriously, because on one hand, what you're doing, all your projects, etc., and the multitude of your initiatives is not anything bad, as long as you take it like a game, like something not that serious, where success shouldn't really be a requirement, or, things to meet your exact plans or your calculations shouldn't really be something that you should hold that very much important, because basically you are a creator. And a creator is almost like a parent, and a parent doesn't suffocate their children with their control, so to speak. So don't be a control freak with your own creativity and with your own initiatives. After you give it a shape or form, or somehow start it up, initiate it, well, allow it to have a life of its own. Allow it to go in the direction where it wants to go, because if you're such an ingenious and creative person, shouldn't your creation be just like you? And on the other hand, well, when you initiate yourself in so very many activities, all of which have to do, something in the world, help other people, represent a value in the lives of others, or your life, or in the life of the community, or accomplish a specific purpose, well then, do you actually have time to enjoy life, to experience life, to live why you came here in this incarnation? Because regardless of what you think and how you might feel, you're not really a person who came here to do 10 million activities and change the world. Because the reason why you know how to do everything, the reason why you're so very diligent, responsible, serious, calculated, is because this is all that you have done in your previous existences. And what you don't know is that you kind of came here on holiday, so to speak. So you shouldn't really work yourself to exhaustion, but you should try to truly enjoy life. And this isn't anything physical, this is just psychological. If you want to enjoy life, if you want to enjoy this chance that you received from the universe to just exist, you need to abandon that very serious, that very meticulous, that very Virgo kind of attitude you have towards life, and just allow. If it's chaos that you have to allow, well then that is what you have to do. Because chaos is not either positive or negative. Chaos is a very strong creative power that can, bring forth miracles. And at the same time, enjoy yourself, enjoy what you're doing. Like, for example, the reason why you were born in this specific timeline is not for you to be overwhelmed by technology, but quite the opposite. For you to use technology to enjoy yourself, to experience life, to experience all the wonders that it can do, to experience all the very, very unique opportunities that it offers us, but only, us. Whatever we have access to was totally unavailable in any other timeline, especially past timeline. Now you can just look at your screen and see the solar system, see the surface of Mars, etc. So this is why you're here right now, to enjoy everything that you could not enjoy otherwise. And also, this is where the universe is kind of holding a tug of war with you, where you pull the rope, then the universe pulls back the rope, until one of the two surrenders, in the sense that either the universe kind of acknowledges that you don't want to live and experience your life, and then it will give way to what you desire. You can work and do as many projects and activities and purposes as you possibly desire. But if it's you who surrenders with this very controlling way of living your life, well, then the universe gets what it wants, and it will give you a lot of beautiful experiences where your creativity and your self-expression leads to joy, happiness, feeling proud of yourself, and not any kind of professional or material or whatever kind of success and recognition. And this is where I think the universe is the wisest of both of you. So, if you have enough trust in your heart, dare to release the rope, dare to allow the universe to win in this situation. Now the final message is the Nine of Swords, clarified by the Six of Pentacles. Now, unfortunately, this depicts a very serious situation where someone out there might be in a very strong and deep depression, but I don't think it is the kind of depression where we have any word to say, we have any option to just come out of it. This is where I think it's already affecting the whole neural system. So this is the energy of deep suffering. This is the energy of despair. And also, unfortunately, this might be the case where it's not exactly past traumas and all the logical and usual stuff which would trigger a depression that is exactly affecting you, that it is making this so very intense. Because it appears to me that you are, accepted the past and you already done all of that work. You released it, you detached, you understand everything. You might be even someone who has a rather profound knowledge of psychology, and that's why you know that you are in big trouble right now. It is something like an energy or some thought pattern, or you may be sharing or taking on someone else's karma on yourself without even knowing that you did that, which is causing this very unusual, unexplainable, and very wrathful and vengeful inner state of being to start basically demolishing your sanity. But this is where the universe is telling you, because it isn't actually your fault, and you are becoming more and more helpless, it is going to send someone your way who will very, very quickly simply rescue you, save you, turn your situation around. It will, just as this state is so unexplainable, the healing process or how quickly you're gonna snap out of it It's almost like walking through a door where today you're still immersed in all of this, and tomorrow life is like absolutely totally different. So the healing, the solution is going to be more than strong enough, efficient enough to simply take it off you. Just like basically removing a tick, the universe will just rip it out of you, but it can take a form of a person, maybe someone who is very, very close to you, but you're physically distant from one another. It can also be like a gesture which simply lights up your whole soul with the energy of happiness, joy, hope. Maybe something very important to you gets basically fulfilled before your very eyes, and in that case, that other person is simply the universe. But for most people, it can be a person who you do not know yet, and somehow they'll enter your life and snap you out of this, and that will be the end of the depression. That will be the end of this powerful mental crisis that you're going through right now. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you'd like a personal reading, just log on to 1millionnights.com and find your dedicated advisor who would love nothing more to share their expertise, their gifts, their skills, and their talents to make your life better. We also have a special promotion in the month of September where if you buy any of our prepaid packages, you get 10% bonus credit. Thank you once again. I wish everyone a blessed and happy day. Until next time, bye for now.